You know, Honorable 𝐻𝐵𝐺𝐭 beat General Museveni on the presidential election, but down members of parliament, LC5 chairpersons, LC3 chairpersons, 80% are movement. And we are educated people. It means we are out of touch. We are unable to influence things. Because that's a contradiction. People want change, they vote for the top to be removed. But they reinforce the top by giving them the roots. Because members of parliament, LC5, LC3s. So we also have a problem, ladies and gentlemen. We have two problems. We have a problem of General Museveni. We also have a problem of those who want to remove him. Because we are not well organized, I think, possibly we are not even focused. We fall into the trap of the systematic nature of influence of the public mind and the shaping of the narrative. That's why people get to that conclusion. And therefore they say, elections can't work. Muntu, go with others and fight. What is more difficult? If people cannot be bold enough to vote, you tell me, how will they be bold enough to get weapons and fight? How? How? If people can be influenced by 1,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings, 5,000 shillings, 10,000 shillings, and then leaders are being bought like one can buy goats in a market. Leaders abandon the very people whom they are supposed to represent. You tell me, how a population which is influenced by 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 shillings, that will even get people who can get weapons and fight and spend 3 days without eating and walk 40 kilometers a day? How? People are looking for excuses to get out of a situation that we need to deal with. At a personal level, I can't go back to getting weapons and fighting. Not because I don't believe that it can work. I have ever been there. I would have no moral authority to condemn anybody who tried to use the same method. But the reasons why I can't go get weapons to fight again is different. Why? Because I know, and I've always advised all colleagues who tell me about going to fight, that from my own observation here in our country so far, the people who choose to get weapons to go and fight, I have a sense that even when they take power, 7 out of 10 would be drunk within the first 1 year and do the same things the regime is doing, because that's what happened in our case. Power, I keep telling people, is like alcohol. Weapons have their own, you know. When you are in charge of power and you have weapons around you, there is a sense you get like you are in the clouds and everybody else is just, you can't do anything about that sense of entitlement. Once you take power through weapons, it gives you the sense of entitlement. And many people get drunk, and therefore the dominant group in the group that would have taken power through the use of weapons dominates and guides the direction. That's what is happening now. So my suspicion, in a group which goes and takes power again through the use of weapons, a majority of them would get drunk. The small group that would remain sober would not influence the direction of things. That's why I cannot go back to the bush again. So we have to fight using other means. 3, finally, Annabelle. We all look for money on a daily basis. Some people go to kiosks, some people drive taxis, others drive borders, others have shops, others have different ways they farm. And we don't make money on a daily basis, even on a weekly basis. There are times when things fall apart, we don't get the money. There are times when we lose the money, but we keep fighting until we get money. Why is it that it is easier for people to give up on politics than giving up on the looking for money. And yet politics is at the core of our being and all the things we do. Because when politics goes wrong, it affects you in every other area where you are. It will find you in whichever profession you are in. It will find you in your marketplace. It will find you wherever. So why would we not concentrate and have the same resilience in trying to make our own individual lives better through looking for money? Even when we don't get it, we go back. When you are a farmer and your crop dries up because there has been a drought, you still go back. You keep farming until you get off this planet. But when it comes to elections, you say, I'm no longer going to go and vote. Because I really don't go in that direction. For me, I think we all should go in there. Actually, 42% of the population never voted. And I think that's part of the problem. We need to all mobilize, go there, overwhelm the system. If you cannot overwhelm the top, capture the ground. Like we normally see in Kenya, the opposition, even when the top is manipulated, at least when it gets to parliament, it gets to senators, it gets to the provinces, the governors and all that, you find it's almost hanging balance, 49-51. At times the difference is about 2-3 people. And therefore the president finds it very difficult to run a country as if they're running a home. Here, educated people are there in Chadondo. There. If you go and check about those candidates who are piled up there in Chadondo, 8 out of 10 don't believe in NRM, but they are there. There is a problem in our society, and we need to deal with it head on. Those who want to get weapons, Annabelle, I wish you luck. I won't be part of it. I won't condemn it, but I think we need to take a different direction and do all things necessary to see that we shape a better future. Sacrifices are required. The last one, anonymous, innocent, public caught up in the violence. Unfortunately, I mean, I really can't give you guarantees that what happened, for example, 2021 won't happen in 2026. I would be presumptuous. Because as long as 𝐬𝐻 still wants to hang on to power, and he has already put in his papers he wants to run, they are going to pull the plans to ensure that he wins at any cost. So if you are unlikely to be in a particular place where violence is being unleashed, you may easily become a casualty. But that is not to say that we should give up hope and abandon the struggle. This is not 𝐬𝐻 home. This is a country, 45 million people, with a fast-growing population. So whatever his desires should be irrelevant to those who want change. Keep organizing, keep organizing. Because as the English say, success happens when opportunity meets with preparation. Who knows what is going to happen between now and whenever we go for elections? Who knows? Only God knows. 𝐬𝐻 doesn't know. We don't know. So let's not give him what he wants to say, this is a done deal. It is not a done deal. As long as those who want change become active and organized relentlessly without giving up. But if you sit back home and say, it's a done deal, that will be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Not because it must happen, but because you have not participated to prevent it becoming what you think it is going to become. So far, all the colleagues who've been here before me have testified to the state of affairs. We just heard 𝐶𝐻 as a torture victim, as a survivor. And it's self-evident that we have we've had a trend of elections that are manipulated, where force is used, and in some cases people have died, and others have been arrested and tortured. And the trend in terms of elections, if we follow it as it has been, every election is always worse than the one before it. If you were to go by that trend, if that's what continues, it basically would mean that we could easily make a conclusion that the next election is going to be worse than the 2021. If we follow the trend. So where lies the problem? I think one of the colleagues who spoke before me talked about systems. He talked about the law is not the solution, the systems are. But who builds the systems? Who sustains the systems? And what do those systems represent? Because we need to recognize that since the beginning of time, there have always been two contending forces. And that struggle between two forces is permanent and continuous. It never stops. Because in every society, you're always going to find two types of human beings. There are those who are driven by self-interest. They believe that their comfort, their needs are over and above anything else. That's what drives them. Two, there are also people who believe that for them to have their needs satisfied, for them to be secure, for them to have comfort, that you need to focus on how to build community in which they do belong, or the collective, or a clan, or a nation, or whatever they belong to. So there is always contention between those two forces. Because at an individual level, they become many because they have the common thinking. So whichever force dominates the environment is the one that determines the nature of laws, or even in situations where laws have been written and they are good, the nature of application, how to administer issues of public affairs. Basically, that's what it is. And there is no anybody who can escape from that contention. So the question is where you stand in that contention. Maybe we should also reach a conclusion that there's also a third type of people, possibly. People who are sitting on the fence are not engaged in that contention. So that whichever happens, whatever the dominant force is, as long as they can survive, they will lay low and hope and wait in the event that the situation is not good, that somehow it will change. Maybe there is also that kind of force. I don't know. I've not given it a lot of thought before. So where lies the solution? Because indeed, if we are to follow the trend, you are talking about expectations on where we are going. If we are to follow the trend, 2026 is going to be worse than 2021. So where does that get terminated in the event that we do not overwhelm the regime? In this round, where does it end? Is the question. That contention is dependent on the balance of forces. Which side has got the advantage in terms of balance of forces? And therefore, those of you who desire to see an end to the experiences that we see of torture, of manipulation, of elections, you have to choose a side to stand on. And if you want to shape the future to be different from the current political dispensation, you need to engage. And in my own estimation, because I know this is not a subject that many people pay attention to, or many actually ignore it. There are many people who tell me, Muntu, you are simply an idealist, parties can't work. But yet, for me, I recognize that parties are the vehicles of governance if we are to follow our constitution. They are the vehicle through which people contend for power and get into power, and therefore are able to govern. So in my own estimation, anybody who wants to change the political environment has got to get into a vehicle that they believe can change that environment. And even for them to change the environment in the country, they must first become the dominant force even in that vehicle. Because even when you are in a party, it does not necessarily mean that that party, once it takes power, that it will change the reality of what is. So for you to resolve the national questions, the issues of impunity, which I think the colleagues before me talked about, You have to first solve the problems of the parties. Because in any party in power, the manner in which governs reflects its thinking, the dominant thinking in that party. If the dominant force in a party are those who are driven by self before country, that's the trend the country will continue moving. So that's why I was asking you initially the questions. The minority, the minority of you are the ones who voted 2021. There I could give it and I could understand, because I suspect many of you are not of voting age by then. But then 2026, I would like to believe that all of you are above 18. And when I ask those who intend to vote, again, it seems to be a minority. I ask those who are in parties, again, it's a minority. I ask those who may not, because you don't have to be a member of a party to support a party. Because you can give backup to a party in terms of doing research, in terms of technical work, in terms of communications, in terms of funding it, in terms of logistics. If you intend to shape the future is not going to be shaped by itself. The future is going to be shaped by the dominant force in any group which is in power. Should NRM continue, expect the same things to continue happening. If any other force takes over, it will do what the dominant group in it think like. Are we together? There are no shortcuts. There is no other route out of that. I wish I could give you good news, but I can't. The reality is that you are going to be responsible for your own future, whatever future you think you want to have. And you have to build it through different channels. You don't all have to belong to parties. You can belong to professional organizations. You can belong to wherever you are. But if you recognize that you are on a front where you are fighting to shape that future, where there is a rule of law, where there is equality before the law, where there are equal opportunities, where there is justice. Because even those institutions that 𝐿𝐻𝐫𝐬𝐻 was talking about, which have been weakened, they are run by us, human beings. Many of them even have security of tenure. Many of them who are well paid. But when society is broken to a point where a significant number of those who are in positions where they could actually influence things to go in a better direction, choose simply to survive, that society is highly vulnerable. Impunity you talked about impunity. Impunity is preceded by a systematic process of normalizing the abnormal. That's why so many things which ordinarily would be seen to be abnormal now have been normalized, and they simply pass, and everybody says, okay, I am still okay. Until possibly there is an implosion, and then everybody gets the flack. But should any society wait for that to happen? Shouldn't. Most of those who have had the opportunity to be educated, because education opens our minds, education should give us the capability to focus and see this is where we desire to go. They should be able to have a picture of the end state where they want to be, and then participate in acting in concert with those who are like-minded to reach that desired state. So torture is not going away anytime soon. I suspect it might get worse before it gets better. Because the question of the balance of forces now is tilted towards the advantage of those who hold power and who want to exercise it with impunity. Clearly, it is so self-evident. So the only way that can change is those who desire a different state of being, where there is a rule of law, where there is accountability in the use of national resources, where there are equal opportunities, where there is justice. They have to build until that critical level where they shift the balance of forces in their favor. That situation that most people desire, but unfortunately are not yet working for, is not going to fall like rain. It simply won't happen. It's a question of the dynamics at play. Choose a side and be part of it. And please don't stay on the fence like many seem to choose and hope that there's someone who's going to do it. I always get surprised when people think that there is a time when, unless something miraculous happens, yes, I can't contend against that. There are times when miracles happen, like Saul became Paul. Maybe. Those who pray, pray. But let me tell you, that rarely happens. People must act in shaping their future if they want a better future, different from where they would be at in any undesirable situation. That's the built. Even when one regime goes like this one is going, certainly you can see the tail end of it. You only can't put the finger on the date. But the issue is you have to engage in building any group which replaces them to be of a different mind. For the dominant force in any such group to do things that you desire to see happen in our future. I really hope that the elite, we who belong to that group of people who have had the opportunity to go to school and we understand things better than those who may not have had the chance, that you need to engage. Don't stay on the sidelines. You may not go direct, but you can give backup. As I end, I don't know here if there is anybody who belongs to a research group or to a university, those who have got access to some kind of research. I would like to hope that this election, for example, someone should go and do research to find out the professionals, for example, the teachers, the lawyers, the doctors, for example, in the current expressions of intention in the different political parties. How many are where? And then we see the balance. That will give us a picture. Who are the majority of us who want to see a better future are? Because one thing is different from acting. I bump into so many people in a constituency somewhere where, in the west where I come from, there's a constituency where there are 12 candidates, all of them educated. I have asked about 8. Do you believe in what the party you are in? They say no. So why are you in it? That's the only avenue. That should give you a picture. The dominant motive that is driving many of us who are in politics now is self-interest and survival. And in the process, we are getting enslaved. And any people who are under a state of enslavement, everything will be done to sustain them in that state, including torture. Anybody who wants to change that, the mindsets have to be changed. So become agents of, get to people you know. Try to convince them to think and act, at least the thinking to be consistent with the acting. Rather than a kind of situation we see now where many people act different from what they believe. Therefore, they are living in a conflicted situation. I wonder why many are not even are looking for psychiatric attention, because living in a conflicting situation is not good for anybody's health. You're in a situation you don't believe in it, but you are busy defending it. And at night, maybe you find your conscience is disturbing you day in, day out. May God bless you all.